All right, YouTube. I'm sitting here in Laredo, Texas. As you all know, I got here last night, about 4:30 or so Central Standard Time. Dropped off a day early. I wasn't supposed to drop off till today, but I hurried up and got down here. And now I'm waiting. I could be down here for a few days. I don't know. I'm still number 9. Actually, I'm number 10 now. I moved down a spot, so I figured I'd make a video. Today's video is going to be explanation of highway routes. You know, whether if it's the interstate, highway, freeway, what have you. Because I travel for a living. So to know these things as tips and to be knowledgeable, it is very essential for the job that I do. And even before that, I traveled a lot. Traveled across these United States plenty of times. Did cross-country moves, what have you, vacations. I drove. Never flew. Rarely caught the bus. I just drove. So to know these tips that I'm about to tell you today is going to be very, very essential. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the basics of stuff. When you have interstates, and this is just pertaining to interstates, that are even number interstates. Interstate 90, Interstate 70, Interstate 80. Any of the even number interstates, Interstate 74, those are generally going to be your interstates that run west to east. The general direction, I say general because, for example, you got near Buffalo, New York, and particularly in that area, from the Lackawanna tolls, you drive in eastern direction. But then right when you get into the Buffalo area, the route curves north. And it goes north a little bit and then it continues back east. But the general direction from point A to point B is west to east. And in retrospect, for odd number interstates, Interstate 71, Interstate 75, Interstate 65, those routes would tend to go north to south. Interstate 75, for example, usually goes from the Canadian border all the way down to Florida. You got your even numbers like Interstate 90 that goes, from the West Coast over to Boston. So you have to keep that in mind when traveling a major interstate. That's the general direction it will take you. Now, the three-digit interstates are interstates that usually either spurs around the city or just bypasses the city, whether if it's a complete circle, half circle, what have you. The way I always remember this is I will look at a freeway, for example, in Cleveland, Ohio, I-480. When I read it literally, 480, it's telling me that this freeway is not only going to bypass Cleveland, but at some point is going to eventually connect with Interstate 80. Same thing in Toledo, 280, meaning that it's going to bypass the major city of Toledo, Ohio, but it's going to lead me to Interstate 80, 271. Same example up in Cleveland. It's going to bypass Cleveland, but it's going to lead me eventually to Interstate 71. Even if you didn't even have a GPS and you said, hey, I'm on the 271, I need to get to Interstate 71. If you ride it long enough, you're going to run right into the interstate that you're looking for. That's the way I was always taught. That's the way my grandmother always taught me. With that being said, it's usually a bypass or it is a spur around the city. Like in Cincinnati, for example, the I-275 goes all around the city. So if you are, or better yet, the I-270 in Columbus, if you're traveling from Cleveland south and you're going over to Indianapolis, it's easier to come down to 71 south, hop on the 270 west, and then continue on to the Interstate 70 going west into Indianapolis. So therefore, not only, are you spurring around the city, but you're avoiding the cluster of downtown. It's a good tip to remember. Let's see here. Now, let's see. Exit numbers. Major thing here with exit numbers. Exit numbers are key. They generally explain the distance between 2 points, whether if it's the distance for that particular freeway or the distance between point A and point B from one city to the other. That's a good indicator. Like when you enter into Texas on the Interstate 10, you're at exit 880. That's the first exit, which is the Texas Welcome Center. That's telling you that's approximately 880 miles between that point and the state line. Typically, it might be off a couple miles, but it's typically telling you that you're going to be traveling on that freeway for 880 miles in order to get from that Texas Welcome Center in Orange, Texas, over to the state line, which is near El Paso. So whenever you see exit numbers, mile markers, they're generally a good indicator that it's either going to be the length of the freeway or it's going to be pretty much the length of the freeway. 130 miles, or everybody say exit 130. Just tell you that you got 130 miles before you get, to a state line, or you get to, where the freeway might end. So that's a good indicator as well. Interstate business routes. You got in North Carolina, I believe, or it might be South Carolina. You got Interstate 85, you got Interstate 85 business route. Those are usually different in color. Your business routes are typically green. And it's still the interstate in some cases. The Interstate 85 is still a freeway. The speeds are a little slower, but it serves the businesses around that particular area. Not that you can't take the regular interstate, but you might have an interstate that might be 20 miles in length, but maybe only has 6 exits. But then you take that same interstate as a business route, you might have a 20-mile stretch and maybe have 12 exits. So it just all depends, whether you want to get off at an exit that's in between or what have you. But generally, business routes typically lead back to the interstate. So if you get on Interstate 85 on the business route at point A, it's going to lead you to the Interstate 85 point B. It's going to lead you back to the other end. It's just another, you could say another spur. If you want to get off and you want to go to whatever business, they're all right there. Instead of, taking off, instead of getting on the interstate, the main one, and you have to get off and then backtrack because there wasn't an exit for that particular one or what have you. HOV lanes, high occupancy vehicle only. Vehicles with 2 or more people. Phoenix, I used to stay in Phoenix. These lanes are all around the city. Only go in these lanes if there are 2 or more people. 2. Okay? They are strict on that. I know when I stayed in Phoenix, and they would have cops sitting on the freeway just to catch people that are riding in these lanes, and it's just one of them. Usually it's like a $200-300 fine. So if you don't have more than one person in your car, don't do it. I've seen people use blow-up dials just so that they can ride in those lanes. And to be honest, it really doesn't make it go any faster when you're in a city like Phoenix or Atlanta, where you run into rush hour, and it's just an additional lane basically. But it's to get more people in and out of the city faster. Whether if it's faster or not, that's up to you to decide. I mean, I really don't think it is, but that's just my opinion. Bus lanes only. Bus lane only. Cleveland, Ohio. When you're on Interstate 90, going towards downtown, they have bus lanes only, which is basically saying that, you know, when it's congested, you know, the public transit, I think school buses and maybe Greyhound are allowed to ride on the shoulder. And it usually indicates where you can get off or where you have to merge back in with traffic and you can merge back over. But don't get caught riding in those either. You know, because it's just like riding an HOV lane. You get caught, you will get hit with a ticket. Let's see what else. County roads. County roads is exactly what it says. County road. It's a route that runs within the county. You got your state routes, which are routes that run within the state, like State Route 161 in Columbus. You know, it starts, you know, in Mutual, Ohio, and ends in Alexandria, Ohio. Then you got your state routes, like U.S., or not state routes, your U.S. routes, like Route 30, Route 40. You know, you got Route 40 that runs through several states, from Utah over to New Jersey. And state routes that typically ends in 0 are ones that are going to cover a good chunk of this country. You know, like your Interstate 30, your 40, your 50. You know, your Interstate 20, or U.S. Route 20, I should say. You know, those routes are going to cover a good chunk of this country. So, you know, do keep that in mind. And also, if you think of it in terms of, you know, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, you know, up to down, Route 20 is going to be your furthest north route. And then the 30 is going to be south of the 20, 40 is going to be south of the 30, the 50 is going to be south of the 40, so on and so forth. And it's just going to keep continuing to go down that way. So keep that in mind. Other little tips when it comes to traveling. I usually don't need a GPS if I'm going to a major city. Now, once I get in the city, I might plug it up. But usually I know, because I travel a lot. What I do, like, for example, if I'm traveling from Buffalo to Phoenix, okay, because I do that quite a bit. I try to memorize the cities that I'm going to go through. Major cities. For example, I'm going to see if I can say this right. When I leave Buffalo, I travel through Erie. I travel right outside of Cleveland, which is Akron, Columbus, Dayton, Indianapolis. Then I travel towards St. Louis, I think. Then I travel through like Tulsa or Oklahoma City, then Amarillo, then I go into Albuquerque, and then to Flagstaff, or, you know, whatever. But the point that I'm getting at is, if I remember those set of cities, a good indicator that you're going the right way is just look at the exits, look at the freeway. Every time you come into a major city, like when you leave Buffalo, the first city that you see on the little overhead marking or the overhead sign is the next major city. So in my case, is Erie. Once you get into the city of Erie, that city name is going to change. It's going to say Cleveland, you know, and then so on and so forth. So if you remember the cities in your head, you would never need a GPS. Now, like I said, once you get to a major city, then you might need it to, you know where you're going. But I figured I'd make a video based on that, you know, because if you know those tips, if you remember those tips, you know, the basic rules of the road, then you will probably never need a GPS, or you won't need it as much. If you have any questions about that, you know, you want to know more, feel free to hit me up. I'm going to be here all day. You know, I probably won't move at all today. I might catch a dollar movie. There's one right up the road here. I might get another burrito. I don't know, because the burrito I had yesterday, it was good, but it tore my stomach up, and I'm paying for it. So it is what it is, YouTube. But I'm gonna go ahead, let you go. Try to enjoy the rest of my day. If you haven't already, please hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, folks, take care.